Our top story tonight. A new era in New England. Drake Maye has been named the Patriots starting quarterback. Is he ready? Is he set up for success? Or are they setting him up for failure? What does this mean for the other pieces in the New England offense? We also have another quarterback change, a star running back set to return in week 7, and some good injury news out of San Francisco. Plus, other top stories, week 6 injuries, sleepers, trends, players to watch, and much more tonight on Breaking Fantasy Football. Is up. Welcome to week 6 and welcome into Breaking Fantasy Football. I am Alex Johnson. We are starting, as I said at the top, we are starting with Drake Maye, now the New England Patriots starting quarterback. The rookie, number 3 overall pick, gets his chance. He was backing up Jacoby Brissett for 5 weeks. That was a disaster, as predicted, as expected. Nobody expected anything less than Jacoby Brissett to fall flat on his face and struggle behind this offensive line with no receivers, no weapons. But now Drake Maye gets to enjoy the terrible offensive line, no receivers, no weapons. What does that mean? I mean, we talk about the Patriots. They are right now, with Jacoby Brissett, they have been dead last in the NFL in points per game. They have averaged 12 and a half points per game. That is pathetic. But in comes Drake Maye, the number 3 overall pick, to be the hero. He's got a big arm. And this guy ran for nearly 1,200 yards over his last 2 seasons at North Carolina. So this is what makes him intriguing for us as fantasy gamers. And I talked about Drake Maye this summer as an intriguing, very, very deep sleeper at the end of your drafts, drafting him in the final rounds of best ball on Underdog because of this rushing ability. Not because he's got these great weapons or he's set up for success, but because he's going to get behind that terrible offensive line. He's going to get nobody to throw to, and he's just going to be like, you know what? I'm going to do it all myself. He's going to go full Josh Allen mode and just run the shit out of the ball. And we know he can do it. He did it in North Carolina. There was one year with the Tar Heels that Drake Maye led the team in rushing for the season. He led the team in rushing. I don't know if he's going to run to that level, the NFL level, but this is an element of Drake Maye's game that is underrated. It's not talked about enough among fantasy gamers, among fantasy analysts. So Drake Maye is an intriguing sleeper. He's an intriguing guy to pick up off the waiver wire and stash on your bench if you're a quarterback needy team. Now, what does this mean for the New England pass catchers? What does it mean for Hunter Henry? What does it mean for Jalen Polk? Jalen Polk has been on the rise, slowly, incrementally, over the last few weeks. Jalen Polk has been getting more and more involved in this offense. He nearly had a game-winning touchdown at the end of the game last week against the Dolphins. He was this close. His feet, his toes landed in, his heels landed out of the back of the end zone. It's one of those weird rules where if, the receiver catches the ball heading towards the back line of the end zone, heading towards the sideline, he just drags his toes, he's in. But if he's heading out backwards, his toes come down, heels go out, that's incomplete. That's not enough. You need the full foot. And that is the only thing that stopped Jalen Polk from catching a game-winning touchdown in week 5 against the Dolphins. And possibly the only reason why we're seeing Drake Maye starting for the Patriots in week 6. So that's our top story. That is our top story. Now, the biggest thing I'm worried about with Drake Maye as a Patriots fan is the offensive line, right? The offensive line is like historically bad. I've never seen an offensive line this bad in my life. They've allowed the second most sacks in the NFL. I'm worried about Drake Maye's a guy coming into the league. He's got some had some things fundamentally to work on. A lot of footwork stuff that he needed, just mechanical things that he needed to work on to improve, to develop. I mean, he's a young guy. He's what, 21 years old. My worry is that they've worked with that all off season. Rookie camp, mini camp, training camp, first month of the season in practice, and he got it down. But now he's going to get behind that terrible offensive line. He's going to just forget everything he's learned in practice from these coaches over the last 6 months. That's my concern. But it'll be fun to see. It'll be fun to see. I mean, it's certainly going to make Patriots Texans a lot more interesting. That's for sure. That's for sure. Anyway, let's move on to our next top story tonight. That is Nick Chubb. Just came out about 20 minutes ago, just before we went live. Mary Kay Cabot is reporting that Nick Chubb is expected to return to the field in week 7. That is next week against the Bengals. So Nick Chubb is getting ready to make his NFL debut. They activated him last week. They opened the 21-day practice window. He had a good week of practice, had another good week of practice this week. So the coaches are clearly liking what they have seen from Nick Chubb over these 2 weeks of practice. And now they're determining that, all right, we've seen enough. He's going to play next week against the Bengals. Now, of course, we don't expect that's going to be a full-blown Nick Chubb of old type of role that he's going to be playing in. It's still going to be Jerome Ford, still going to be starting. Nick Chubb will probably just work in, just kind of ease his way back in over his first few weeks, and then maybe that role gets ramped up. That's if we're getting the same explosive, agile Nick Chubb that we're used to seeing. And I'm really questioning whether that's what we're going to see coming off this injury at his age. But he so far he's exceeded expectations in his rehab, for sure. He's coming back earlier than I projected. So we'll see how that translates to his role. Our next top story tonight is Gardner Minshew has been benched in favor of Aidan O'Connell. Aidan O'Connell is back atop the depth chart for the quarterbacks in Las Vegas. We saw Aidan O'Connell start most of last season for the Raiders. I mean, he was fine. Nothing great. He wasn't horrible. He gets the job done. He'll feed Brock Bowers. He'll feed Jacoby Myers. Just what we need for fantasy football. He's not a guy that we are starting in fantasy outside of desperate situations. I really don't think the pendulum swings very far one way or another between Aidan O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. I think they should have been starting Aidan O'Connell from day one. I mean, Gardner Minshew has been in the league for years. We know what Gardner Minshew is at this point. Let's let the kid develop. Let's see what we got with Aidan O'Connell. That's what they should have been doing from week 1. They're finally going to do it here in week 6. We'll see how long it lasts. There's a very good chance at some point they swing back to Gardner Minshew by the end of the year. Who knows? But let's move on. We've got more interesting topics to talk about than Raiders quarterbacks at this point. That is Jordan Mason with his shoulder injury. Jordan Mason has been the hero of fantasy football through the first 5 weeks, right? He was undrafted in most redraft formats. He was, very, very late round guy in underdog best ball formats. And all of a sudden, from week 1, out of nowhere, Christian McCaffrey out, inactive, week 1, goes on IR, and Jordan Mason steps up. He steps up and he plays at a high level. But now he's got this shoulder injury. He tried to come back from it. It happened in the first half on Thursday Night Football. He came back to begin the second half. He got 1 carry, and he went right back to that sideline. Saw him, adjusting his shoulder, kind of moving that thing around throughout the game. Kept his helmet on, kept his pads on, kept his uniform on. He was there. He looked like he wanted to go back in, but it just wasn't happening. Just wasn't happening. Now, it's reported to be an AC sprain. Now, it is said to be minor, but we know how those reports go. I remember just a few days ago where Nico Collins' hamstring was minor and Jonathan Taylor's ankle injury was minor. And now we've got Nico Collins on IR. Jonathan Taylor is going to miss a second straight game. We can't believe these coaches when they say that this injury is minor, because clearly it never actually turns out to be minor. So we'll see what the case is here with Jordan Mason. Now, in his place, stepped up Isaac Guerendo. Now, it was really a backfield committee between Isaac Guerendo, the rookie out of Louisville, and Patrick Taylor, a guy who's been around the league for several years. He spent some time with the Packers, didn't really do much there. And certainly Guerendo looked better, which is no surprise. I mean, he's an explosive running back. We loved him coming out of Louisville, 4th-round pick. I mean, he was a complete projection. He didn't do a lot at Louisville. He was backing up to our Jordan. He never started a game at the college level, but he's got the physical tools that we love. He's 6 feet, 221 pounds. He runs a 4.33. He's got one of the highest speed scores ever recorded from a running back. And if you're looking at just the physical metrics, the testing metrics of running backs, speed score is by far the most predictive. So we liked Guerendo coming out, and you put him in San Francisco. He's an injury away from being an injury away. And now it looks like he might actually be the guy who's stepping up in that backfield if Jordan Mason is set to miss any time. He ran 10 times against the Seahawks for 99 yards. Now, of course, most of that came on one run, which was 76 yards, but that's the type of play that we knew Isaac Guerendo could deliver coming out of Louisville, was those big 76-yard runs. That's why we loved him so much. The 4.33 speed. That's a big back. This is not a 190-pound back that runs 4.33. This is not Devon Achane. This is a big, full-built man of a running back with blazing speed. That is far more impressive than a 185-pound midget running 4.33. Apologies to all the midgets. Now, more positive news coming out of San Francisco on the injury front is Ricky Pearsall is set to return to practice on Monday. The 49ers are opening up the practice window for Ricky Pearsall. Now, obviously, we have the shoulder injuries that he came out of college with, kind of dealt with all throughout training camp. We didn't see him much in training camp because of this shoulder injury. And then he goes out and he gets shot on top of that. So he misses the first 6 weeks of the year. But Ricky Pearsall, they're opening up the practice window. He is expected to return to practice on Monday. That is good news for the 49ers first-round wide receiver. Now, while we're on injuries, why don't we just get to our injury report for week 6? I mean, the injuries just keep stacking up week over week over week. This week doesn't seem to be quite as bad as the first couple, but we do have a lot. So sit back, buckle up. Let's get through this injury report. Let's start with the Falcons. We got Bijan Robinson with a hamstring injury and Darnell Mooney with a knee injury, but both of these guys practice in full on Friday. They are going to play. Rashad Bateman for the Ravens, groin injury. Did not practice on Wednesday, limited on Thursday. But he returned to a full practice on Friday, and he has no injury designation. He is going to play. I like Rashad Bateman this week going against the Commanders. The Commanders have been torched by wide receivers week after week after week after week. Rashad Bateman is happening. He is happening, maybe not on a huge scale, that maybe we thought he could be coming out of Minnesota a few years ago as a first-round pick. But Rashad Bateman, not dead yet. He is happening. I like him as a streamer, as a sleeper in week 6. Moving on to the Bills. Khalil Shakir has an ankle injury. He is questionable. He did not practice on Thursday or Friday. He missed week 5, remember. So we'll see what happens with Khalil Shakir. I would lean he's probably going to miss another week. Unfortunately, this is a Monday night game. So we'll see what happens there. James Cook, toe injury. He is questionable. Did not practice on Thursday or Friday. However, he did practice on Saturday, and he plans to play. So we got good news there for James Cook. Looks like he's good to go. Matt Collins also has a shoulder injury, as does Curtis Samuel with a toe. They were both limited on Thursday and Friday. We'll see what happens with them. We're not starting either one of them anyway. Moving on to the Panthers, Deontay Johnson, ankle injury. He was limited all week. He's been limited for the last several weeks. He's listed as questionable. I fully expect he's going to play. Xavier Legette has a shoulder injury. He practiced all week and will play. I think he missed the second half of last week's game. He is good to go. Bengals, Chase Brown, quadriceps injury. He is questionable. He was limited on Thursday and Friday. However, he is expected to play. Mike Gesicki, hamstring injury. He practiced on Friday. He's going to play. Zach Moss, foot injury. Practice on Friday. He is also going to play. So good news across the board on the injury front for the Bengals. Moving on to the Browns, Nick Chubb. We talked about at the top of the show. Has not been activated. He is out for week 6. However, he will return to week 7, making his season debut, according to Mary Kay Cabot, about an hour ago. We've also got David Njoku, ankle injury. Deontay Foreman, ankle injury. Pierre Strong has a hamstring. Jerry Jeudy, a knee. All these guys practice on Friday, and all are going to play. Moving on to the Broncos, Josh Reynolds is out. He's got a hand injury. He was actually placed on IR today. So we're not going to see Josh Reynolds for several weeks. Now, on the other side of that, Audric Estime, the rookie running back, he was actually activated off IR today. And he is going to be active for week 6. We'll see how he factors into that backfield. It's been a terrible, terrible backfield this year. Javonte Williams has been bad. Jillian McLaughlin has been worse. Tyler Bidet started to come on, and then he got injured. So maybe Audric Estime is the hero that we didn't know we needed. So keep an eye on Audric Estime. I don't think he's a must add off the waiver wire unless you're in deeper leagues, but he's definitely one of these guys you want to add to your watch list if your league has one of those. Just keep an eye on Audric Estime. Keep an eye on how this backfield shapes out over the next few weeks. Audric Estime could be a guy that we are starting by the end of the year. Green Bay Packers, Christian Watson, ankle injury. He is questionable. He was limited all week. He missed last week. I expect he's going to miss this week as well. We might be 1 week away from getting Christian Watson back. Did turn out that ankle injury was not nearly as bad as it was originally reported. That is good news, but I don't expect to see Christian Watson in week 6. Texans, we got Joe Mixon, ankle injury. He practiced on a limited basis Thursday and Friday. He's questionable. He's missed the last few weeks since that hip drop tackle with the high ankle sprain. However, the news came out today that Joe Mixon does indeed plan to play. So we are expecting to have Joe Mixon back in our lineups against the Patriots in week 6. Dameon Pierce, who completely missed his opportunity. He had a hamstring injury that coincided right alongside Joe Mixon's ankle injury. Never got a chance to take advantage of Joe Mixon being out, be the RB2, be the RB1 with Mixon out. He practiced on Thursday and Friday. He, of course, at the same time Joe Mixon is returning, Dameon Pierce also expected to play. Nico Collins, he went to IR earlier this week. We all know about that with the hamstring. Now, what does this mean for the other pass catchers? Does this mean we finally get Tank Dell stepping up in that offense? He's gotten off to a slow start to the season. I think we're going to get to see more targets, more opportunities for Tank Dell. We're also going to see some opportunities for Xavier Hutchinson, last year's 6th-round pick. He was an intriguing prospect coming out last year. I liked Xavier Hutchinson. He seemed to be, looking back at the usage rates last week, he seemed to be the one-for-one replacement as far as snaps, routes, role for Nico Collins. So I expect Xavier Hutchinson is going to be on the field quite a bit in week 6. Deep sleeper play there if you need one. Not somebody I'm rushing to the waiver wire to pick up, though. I think Tank Dell will be the big winner here for the Texans. Moving on to the Colts, we got Anthony Richardson. He is expected to be back on the field. We saw Joe Flacco for 1 week. Anthony Richardson will be back in week 6. Jonathan Taylor, ankle injury. He is out again. Michael Pittman, this was a weird one. Michael Pittman popped up with a back injury. Now, Michael Pittman originally came up with a back injury about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I believe it was week 3, the end of week 3. He popped up with a back injury in practice on a Friday. He's played through it the last few weeks. Now, they talked earlier in the week about possibly putting Michael Pittman this week, putting him on IR. He was an IR candidate because of this back injury. However, all of a sudden, out of the blue, he returns to a full practice on Friday. He's questionable now, not doubtful, not out, not going to IR. He is questionable, and there's a real chance that Michael Pittman does indeed play in week 6. That would be huge. We need Michael Pittman. We need that 8-target, 5-catch, 28-yard game from Michael Pittman. We need it bad. 5 catches, 28 yards incoming for Michael Pittman. Josh Downs, toe injury. He is questionable. He did practice in full on Friday. I do expect Josh Downs is going to play. Trey Sermon has a collarbone injury, but he is also good to go. He is going to play and will start once again in place of Jonathan Taylor. Moving on to the Jaguars. Travis Etienne has a shoulder injury. He's been battling that for weeks. Why do you think Tank Bigsby has been playing so much? It's not because he's better than Travis Etienne. It's because Travis Etienne has been injured. He was limited all week this week. However, he does not have an injury designation. He is going to play. Evan Ingram, hamstring injury. Remember, he was week 2 pregame warmups. Evan Ingram pops his hamstring, out for several weeks. He was limited all week this week. He's questionable. However, it came out today. He is fully expected to play. That is a game first thing tomorrow morning in London. I can't tell you how much I hate these Sunday morning games. That's a rant for another day. Gabe Davis also has a shoulder injury. He was limited all week as well. He is officially questionable. Raiders, Devontae Adams, hamstring injury / trade request / hates Gardner Minshew and Aidan O'Connell and Antonio Pierce. He is out. We'll see where he ends up playing. I guess he'll be traded within the next couple of weeks. Zamir White, groin injury, did not practice on Wednesday and Thursday. He was up to a limited practice on Friday. He's officially questionable. Sounds like Zamir White is going to be a game time decision. If he's out, it's once again going to be the ugly show of Alexander Madison and Amir Abdullah. Unfortunately, White being out did not mean we were getting the unleashing of Dylan Laube. So we still have to be patient in dynasty leagues with Dylan Laube. Jacoby Myers, he's got an ankle injury. Didn't practice on Wednesday and Thursday. He was up to limited practice on Friday. He was originally questionable on the Friday injury report. However, today he was downgraded to doubtful. Likely not going to see Jacoby Myers against the Steelers this week. That means just more Brock Bowers. Just more Brock Bowers. More Brock Bowers. And we're also going to get an intriguing sleeper play from Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker has been trending up over the last several weeks. He's getting good target shares, getting good opportunities. This is a playmaking wide receiver. He's a little guy, but he's fast. He's explosive. He's athletic. He is making plays in that offense. Who knows? Maybe Aidan O'Connell comes in and he likes him some Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker is one of these deep, intriguing sleepers if you need one in week 6. Don't love the matchup, but Trey Tucker should have plenty of opportunity against the Steelers. Moving on to the Chargers, we got Gus Edwards, ankle injury. Didn't practice all week. He is out. In fact, he was actually placed on injured reserve today. We are not going to see Gus Edwards for the next several weeks, which means it is officially Kamani Vidal season, if anything happens to J.K. Dobbins. But I do expect we're going to see more from Kamani Vidal moving forward, coming out of the bye week. I'm going to talk about him a little bit more in depth just a few minutes from now. Sticking with the Chargers, Justin Herbert has that ankle injury. He's been battling that for several weeks. Remember, he went a couple of weeks where he barely practiced. Was he going to play? Was he not going to play? Was it going to be Taylor Heineke? He practiced all week this week. He's off the injury report. Justin Herbert, good to go. Great news there for the Chargers and anybody who is counting on Justin Herbert in fantasy football. Moving ahead to the Patriots, Ramondre Stevenson, ankle injury. He is out. That means wheels up for Antonio Gibson. For all of us who have been truthering for Antonio Gibson, we've been keeping him on our dynasty rosters for years. This is an opportunity for Antonio Gibson. I think the move to Drake Maye at quarterback is also going to help Antonio Gibson in this offense create some more explosive plays, some more opportunities in the red zone and the passing game. And the rushing threat of Drake Maye is just going to help open up run lanes for Patriots running backs. And I think that's really going to help out with an explosive runner like Antonio Gibson. So we'll see what happens with that. That's another intriguing sleeper if you need one in week 6. Kendrick Bourne, knee injury. He returned last week. And KJ Osborne with a shoulder injury. They were both limited all week, and they are officially questionable. With the Saints, we got Derek Carr, oblique injury. He is out. That means rookie Spencer Rattler is going to start. Jake Haener, who came in relief of Derek Carr last week, is actually going to be the QB2. He's going to be backing up Spencer Rattler. So Spencer Rattler has leapfrogged Jake Haener and is going to start. I don't know what to expect from Spencer Rattler. He had a weird college career. He was up and down. Semi-intriguing prospect, but he had a lot of development to do. I don't know what to expect from him. Let me know in the comments. Do you like Spencer Rattler? Do you believe in Spencer Rattler? He said he's going to feed the ball to Chris Olave, when in fact I actually think Rashid Shaheed is becoming the wide receiver 1 there in New Orleans. Spoiler alert, it's happening. Let me know what you think of Spencer Rattler. Are you picking him up? Did you pick him up in Superflex leagues this week? I didn't. Taysom Hill, ribs injury. He is out. Kendre Miller, he's had that hamstring. He started the year on IR. He practiced in full all week. He was activated from IR today, looking like we're going to get Kendre Miller making his season debut. Now, we got Alvin Kamara, who has a hip injury and a hand injury, as well as Rashid Shaheed has a hip injury. They were both limited on Thursday and Friday, but they are both expected to play. Moving on to the Giants, Malik Neighbors concussion. He is going to miss his second straight game. Remember when it happened? It was on Thursday Night Football. We were like, oh, he's got the 10 days. He's got the 10 days. He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. He's got the extra 3 days to recover. And now, 2.5 weeks later, we are still not getting a return from Malik Neighbors. This is a pretty serious concussion for Neighbors, which is really unfortunate. Would have been such a great week to start Neighbors against the Bengals this week, man. What a matchup that would have been. Damn. Devin Singletary, groin injury. He was limited all week. And he was originally listed as questionable, but he was actually downgraded to out today. He's not going to play Sunday Night Football against the Bengals. Now, last week on this show, we talked for several minutes about Tyrone Tracy and how he was a starting running back in fantasy football. He was a guy that we wanted. We were picking him up. We were activating him into our starting lineups. Tyrone Tracy, we talked about him several minutes on last week's show, and he did what? He played 62% of the snaps. He ran 18 times for 129 yards. He was a beast, and he was barely involved in the passing game. And that is what we loved about Tyrone Tracy so much coming out of Purdue. He was a converted wide receiver. This guy is going to catch passes. It just didn't happen last week. He's going to catch passes. They're going to involve him more as a pass catcher in that offense. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. Full wheels up for Tyrone Tracy in week 6. He's going to catch passes. He's going to dominate the rushing attempts. Eric Gray is a nothing burger. Wheels up, fire up Tyrone Tracy with full confidence this week against the Bengals. Moving on to the Jets, Aaron Rodgers, ankle injury, limited on Thursday and Friday, fully expected to play. Tyler Conklin, hip injury, limited on Friday as well. Eagles, Devontae Smith, concussion. He practiced in full on Friday. He is going to return to the field. He is back, as is A.J. Brown, coming off that hamstring injury. He practiced in full on Friday and is going to play. Almost to the end of the injury report here, finally. We got the Steelers, Cordero Patterson, ankle injury. He's out. Jaylen Warren, knee injury. He was upgraded from questionable to no injury designation. He is going to play. We know he missed week 5, but he got into full practice on Friday. They decided he is good to go. We're going to get Jaylen Warren back, and we need him because Najee Harris is awful. Bad running back. Bad running back. But you know what? They're going to keep running him anyway. They don't care. They're going to keep running him anyway. Oh, my God. Let's just give the keys to the backfield to Jaylen Warren, please. Russell Wilson, calf injury, practiced in full all week for the first time this season. He has no injury designation. He's going to be active. We get Russell Wilson. He is back. He is back. Russell Wilson is back. He's backing up Justin Fields, not the starter. Not the starter. QB2, Russell Wilson. I fully believe that this extended calf injury was partly hurt feelings. Russell Wilson, they didn't want to put him to the bench. They didn't want to tell him that, hey, you lost your job. You've been Wally pipped. You're now backing up Justin Fields. It's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time, though, before Justin Fields has a bad game and they turn the back over to the veteran, Russell Wilson. And it could be one of these back and forth situations where we see Russell Wilson and it's Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. There's really no quarterback in Pittsburgh right now. We'll see what happens. Pat Freiermuth, calf injury, limited on Thursday, full on Friday. He is going to play. Going on to the Bucs, Rachaad White, foot injury, limited on Wednesday, did not practice Thursday and Friday. He's officially doubtful. So it's not good when you start limited on Wednesday and then you go to nothing on Thursday and Friday. I do not expect to see Rachaad White active this week, which means full wheels up for Bucky Irving. We're going to see what happens when Bucky Irving takes that high efficiency that he's had for the first several weeks on low volume and they crank up the volume. What happens to that efficiency? I bet it goes down. We're going to see what happens with Bucky Irving this week. He's got an opportunity to win that job. Just take it right now. He has an opportunity to be the Justin Fields to Rachaad White's Russell Wilson. He has a chance. It could happen. It's not gonna, but it could. Titans, Will Levis, shoulder injury. Remember, he hurt it a couple weeks ago on Monday Night Football. Then they had the bye week. Mason Rudolph came and played. He played decent, but they were playing the Dolphins, so he really didn't have to do much. Will Levis practiced in full on Friday. He's going to play. This is a sneaky play. Will Levis, if you need a quarterback off the waiver wire, Will Levis against the Colts. The Colts have been bad. That's a bad defense. There's a bad defense. You can play Will Levis. I want to play my Titans pass catchers. I want to play my Titans running backs. Play all your Titans this week. I know the Titans offense isn't good. It's not fun to play Titans, but this is the week. If you're going to play Titans, this is the week to do it. And finishing up the injury report with the Commanders, Brian Robinson, knee injury. He is out. He missed practice all week. Noah Brown, groin injury, and Austin Eckler, heel injury. These guys both practice in full on Friday, and they are going to play. Whew. What an injury report. Too many injuries, man. Too many injuries. Let's move on to the trends to know. Or I'm sorry, we skipped a segment. Let's move on to the ones to watch. Ones to watch. Now, what I am watching this week is the post bye week rookie bump. It's a real thing. It is a real thing. This happens. We see it all the time, every year. These rookies, they get off to a slow start. They don't have much of a role, or early in the year, the coaches don't really trust them. And then they get to the bye week. They do some self-scouting. They're like, all right, well, our starters kind of suck. We got this rookie. He's looking better and better in practice. We drafted him. We liked him for a reason. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time that we turn the keys over, kind of crank up the dials on our rookie. We could see a little bit of that this week. And that's going to start with Kamani Vidal. Of course, we talked about Gus Edwards out, which is already in itself great news for Kamani Vidal. But when preparing for this show, I put my show sheet together for this Breaking Fantasy Football show. I start this early in the week. I just start throwing nuggets in there. I just start throwing notes in there, things I'm running through my mind that I want to talk about at the end of the week. And I already had Kamani Vidal in here as a possible cranking up the roll. And then we get Gus Edwards out on top of that. It's happening. It is happening. I'm not saying we're starting Kamani Vidal this week. We're not. No, take it easy. Take it easy. But this is the start. This is the beginning of Kamani Vidal's season. It's going to happen. It might be several weeks from now, but at some point, Kamani Vidal is going to be the number one running back on this depth chart. And I want to give you a little teaser. So there's a brand new show starting on this YouTube channel in less than an hour, 9 o'clock. And guess who's hosting? Me. I'm going to be there with a special guest. Don't miss it. We're talking sleepers and streamers. I'm also going to give you a bold prediction at the end of that show, and it involves Kamani Vidal. I can't spoil it now. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil it, but it involves Kamani Vidal. Make sure you catch that show. It's going to be right here, 9 o'clock on the Yards Per Fantasy YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to that. It's called Off the Bench. It's a brand new show. Can't wait for it. Bold prediction for Kamani Vidal coming in that show. However, I want to talk a little bit about Kamani Vidal right now. Because Kamani Vidal, he's a workhorse-sized running back. He's got impressive size-adjusted speed and burst. He's a between-the-tackles runner. However, he has the explosive traits to break off chunk plays. This is a big play running back. Even though he's a big guy, he's short, but he's big. He's got good size, got good girth. And he's fast. He's fast. He is fast. And he's always driving those legs. Almost, not quite, almost kind of Pacheco-ish. Almost. A little more Blake Corum-ish. A kind of a combination of Pacheco and Blake Corum. Just driving those legs, always trying to pick up that extra yard or two. He's grinding out every extra yard. And at the same time can break off a 70-yarder. That I love, man. I love that. That's my type of running back so much. So much my type of running back. So we are watching Kamani Vidal. He is rising. He is rising. He's not ready to go into our starting lineups yet, but he is rising. Pick him up off your waiver wire. Stash him on your bench. Do not drop him if you have him. Kamani Vidal's season is only weeks away. I'm also looking at... Gotta catch my breath after that. I'm also looking at a post-bye rookie bump coming from Blake Corum. Blake Corum. I used the hashtag on Twitter. Hashtag Corum is coming. If you know anything about me, you know I do not believe in Kyren Williams. Never have, never will. He's a small, undersized running back. Not super skilled. He gets there on volume. The coaches trust him. He does a lot of good things good. A lot of things well. I can't say sentences, but he does a lot of things well. But Blake Corum is far superior in just about every way. He's going to start getting more and more opportunities. He's only one Kyren Williams injury away from a massive, massive workload. However, I do think the Rams are going to start slowly including him in that offense a little bit more. I mean, he's a stud coming out of Michigan. And last week, before the bye week, he had 5 carries for 25 yards, averaged 5 yards per carry. I know it's a small sample, tiny little sample, but he wasn't seeing any carries prior to that. He had one game where he got carries. It was in garbage time. This was the first time in real competitive game flow Blake Corum was on the field getting touches, getting snaps, getting carries. I'm looking at that coming out of the bye week next week. Blake Corum. Also looking at Jalen Wright. Same thing. His role has been growing. It's already happening. Can't deny that one. He carried the ball 13 times for 86 yards in week 5 against the Patriots. Raheem Mostert led the team in carries, but Jalen Wright led the team in rushing yards. So Jalen Wright is already outproducing Raheem Mostert on fewer touches. What's he going to do when they give him more touches? Both Achane and Mostert have battled injuries all year. It's only a matter of time before we get full-blown RB1 Jalen Wright season. And Tua Tagovailoa's return is imminent, which is only going to make that offense better. It's going to be explosive again. It's going to be a lot of points again. It's going to be a fun offense. Oh my God, if you have Jalen Wright, do not drop him. And that takes me to the last thing I want to talk about during this segment is it's just a reminder, a PSA. Do not drop your handcuff running backs. I know it's tempting. I know it's hard. We all have a ton of injuries on our teams. We're going through the bye weeks now. Some of these guys have done little or even nothing so far this year. Do not drop them. Do not drop these guys for Juju Smith-Schuster. I promise you, there are a million Jujus. There are a million Alec Pierces. There are a million Jordan Whittingtons, Adnan Mitchells, Josh Downses on the waiver wire. If one of these handcuffed running backs all of a sudden gets thrust to the RB1 job, these are the guys who everybody in your league is going to be rushing to the waiver wire for. These are the guys that everyone is going to be throwing fab at, all of their fab at. And you know what? When they get to the waiver wire in your league, they're going to be fucking pissed because you are already rostering these guys. And some of the names that I have in mind are Blake Corum, Jalen Wright, Trey Benson, Ray Davis, Zach Charbonnet, Tyler Algier, Emmanuel Wilson, Isaac Guarendo, Roshan Johnson, and the aforementioned Kamani Vidal. We are not dropping these guys in any circumstances. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm warning you. It's week 6. I am warning you. Do not drop these guys. The later and later we get into the seasons, the more likely it is that starting running backs start to break down. They start to get injured. James Conner is going to get injured. James Conner, it's coming. It's coming. Don't drop Trey Benson, please. The later we get into the year, the more valuable these handcuff running backs become, the more essential it is to keep them on your roster. Wide receivers are so easy to replace on your waiver wire. Don't drop these running backs. Let's move on to trends to know. I got one trend for you this week. Just one, because I want this show to be 30 minutes. We're already at 45. So I'm failing again. Every week I say 30 minutes. 30 minutes. We always get to an hour. Braylon Allen. Spoiler alert. Braylon Allen is not taking over the backfield in New York right now. He's not. It's not happening. He's not taking that backfield over. Everyone's like, oh my God, Breece Hall, Braylon Allen. It's not happening. And I got the data to back it up. Breece Hall has had a snap share below 70% one time this year. And you know what that snap share was? The one below 70% was 69%. His 73.6% snap share in week 5 was actually his highest that he's had since week 1. I know, coming out of that game, it was like the world was ending for Breece Hall drafters. You shouldn't have been drafting him as high as you were. I'll give you that. That was a mistake. Shouldn't have happened. If you followed our rankings at yardsforfantasy.com, we did not have him, second or third overall. We had him down a little bit. We had him down below some of these wide receivers. However, the world is not ending for Breece Hall. His highest snap share since week 1 in week 5 actually coincided with, of course, Braylon Allen's 26.4% snap share, which was his lowest since week 1. And Breece Hall, he accounted for 65% of the running back opportunities in week 5, and that was right on par with his season-long 67% opportunity share. There was no different. There was no change in his role whatsoever. And he continues, this is most important, he continues to dominate the passing downs work. He ran 33 routes in week 5. Braylon Allen ran 6. Okay, Braylon Allen ran 6. And Breece Hall doubled Braylon Allen's targets. So take a breath on Breece Hall. Go buy low. Go buy low on Breece Hall. I made a trades video this week. My number 1 trade target was Breece Hall. Make sure you check out my video. It's only 9 minutes long. Please get through it real fast. We don't do any of the bullshit. We just get right to the point and get out of there. So check that out right here on the Yards Per Fantasy YouTube channel after this show. Last thing I want to end this show with. Underdog play. I always give you an underdog play. We've hit the last few weeks. There's a big hit last week. It was an easy one. Easy. This one's pretty easy to me too. And it's Zach Ertz. I know. We're playing Zach Ertz. How boring. Zach Ertz, higher than 3.5 receptions on Underdog. He has outscored Sam Laporta, Dalton Schultz, and Mark Andrews on the season, just to name a few. He's second on the team in targets, second on the team in routes, second on the team in receptions and receiving yards. On top of that, he's got a great matchup. This is going to be a fun game. This is a shootout environment. This is a 51.5 point total in this game against the Ravens. It's going to be back and forth. Jaden Daniels is playing so well. Lamar Jackson is playing so well. Going to be a ton of points scored in this game, which is only going to help Zach Ertz. They're going to have to throw the ball a ton. And the Ravens, they've allowed the second most receptions and receiving yards to tight ends this year. Full wheels up for Zach Ertz. If you need a streamer at tight end, which a lot of us do at this point in the year, go pick up Zach Ertz, play him in your redraft leagues, and choose the higher on his line here on Underdog, 3.5 receptions. And when you do on Underdog, when you sign up, use promo code YARDSPER. They're going to give you a free pick to go along with this Zach Ertz pick. So you're just making free money, baby, free money. And on top of that, they're going to give you a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000. That's promo code YARDSPER on Underdog. That's it. That's the show for tonight. I'm already losing my voice. I got one more to do in about 40 minutes right here on this YouTube channel, on Yards Per Fantasy YouTube channel. We're going to talk week 6 sleepers and streamers with a special guest. So make sure you tune into that in about 37 minutes from now, right here on this channel. I'm also going to be live tomorrow at 12:20 Eastern time, answering your start sit questions all the way up to kickoff, just like we do every Sunday morning. And be sure to check out the Coach Approach with Brett and Coach Bruce right here as well on the Yards Per Fantasy YouTube channel. Just subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of these shows, man. So much good content coming out of this channel right now. That's tomorrow at 11:30 Eastern. They're going to preview every single game on the slate. They're going to answer your start-sit questions. They're going to give you their favorite starts and sits from each team. Whew, what a show. I'm going to take like a 35-minute nap prior to this upcoming show because I am exhausted. I have lost my voice already on this show, but we have some really fun sleepers. We're going deep. We're going deep on this next show. We're not talking, oh, Dontavian Wicks. No, we're not doing that shit. We're going deep. These are guys who are rostered 20%, 10%. I got a guy who's rostered in 1% of leagues that I think you need to pick up and stream in week 6. Tune into that show in 36 minutes. But thank you for everyone who tuned into this one tonight. This was fun. This was Breaking Fantasy Football.